Hey, welcome back to Easy Learning 77, your complete Algebra 1, Semester 1, standards-based course. This is just one lesson out of many. If you haven't done so already, please visit tinyurl.com/easylearning77 so you can see our entire course and everything that we offer. Thanks, and let's get started. Let's get this lesson started. So we're still on solving one-step equations part 3. And as we can see, we have our friend here, and he says we're still going to be using multiplication and division to solve these one-step equations. So here's an equation that you might see, or a problem you might see. Solve x over 20 equals 10. So before we solve this, we got to remind ourselves, what does x over 20 mean? What does a fraction mean? Well, it means division. So what this x over 20 really means is x divided by 20. Let's solve this equation. X divided by 20 equals 10. So before we start, we always want to remind ourselves, when we say solve an equation, what is our goal? Well, this is what it should look like. I've got x all by itself on the left side of the equal sign. And on the right side, we don't know what goes there, but we'll figure out what number goes there in just a minute. So let's go back to our equation here. I've got x over 20 on the left side of the equal sign. X over 20 really means x divided by 20. So since we want x to be all by itself, we want to get rid of that divided by 20. So I ask myself, what is the opposite of divided by 20? Think about it. What's the opposite of division by 20? Well, it's going to be multiplied by 20. So I have to multiply by 20, but I have to do it on both sides of that equal sign. What I do to one side of the equal sign, I have to do to the other side of the equal sign. So here's our left side of the equal sign now. And notice I've got that 20 in red on top, and I've got that 20 in white on the bottom. I've really got 20 over 20, which we know means 20 divided by 20. So we ask ourselves, what is 20 divided by 20? Well, it's just equal to 1. And so that leaves me, or it simplifies down, 20 divided by 20 is 1. Leaves me a 1x, or just a plain old x on the left side of the equal sign. So we're halfway there to our goal. Got x all by itself on the left side of the equal sign. So what goes on the right side? Well, let's go back to our equation, look at the right side. What I have there is 10 times 20. So we ask ourselves, what is 10 times 20? Use your head, use your calculator. 10 times 20 is... correct, it's 200. So here we have that 200 bouncing its way on into the correct place. And look, here's your favorite math teacher. And how do we know it's our favorite math teacher? Yeah, you just got to look at her. That's her. So she's saying that x equals 200 is in fact our correct solution. That is a conclusion. Now that we found our solution, we need to check to make sure that we did our work correctly. So here's our original equation. X divided by 20 equals 10. So we ask ourselves, is this a true equation? Well, we don't know yet. We need to do a little bit of calculating. So what we're going to do is, we're going to take our solution. Here's our solution, x equals 200. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to substitute that 200 in for x. So when I do that, on the left side of the equal sign, I get 200 over 20 equals 10. So we ask ourselves, is this a true equation? Not quite there yet. So we still got to do a little bit more calculations. So I've got 200 divided by 20, and these are going to simplify now. And so I ask myself, what is 200 divided by 20? Well, 200 divided by 20 is just equal to 10. So I put a 10 in on the left side of my equal sign, and I get 10 equals 10. So we ask ourselves, is this a true statement? Yes, it is. And so since we have a true statement, we conclude that our solution of x equals 200 is in fact correct. Here's example number 2. And the problem here says, what is the solution of x divided by 10 equals 12? It's the same thing as the last problem. It's like saying solve x divided by 10 equals 12. So here's our equation, x divided by 10 equals 12. And we want to remember what our goal is. Our goal always looks like this: x by itself on the left side of the equal sign and another number that we're going to calculate on the right side. So let's go back to our equation. Here's x divided by 10. And so since I want x all by itself, I've got to get rid of that divided by 10. So I ask myself, what is the opposite of divided by 10? Think about it. What is opposite of divided by 10? Well, it's multiplied by 10. So we're going to multiply both sides of the equal sign by 10. So here come our times 10s on both sides of our equal sign. What we do to one side of the equal sign, we have to do to the other side of the equal sign. So looking at the left side now, I've got that 10 in red on top. I've got that 10 in white on the bottom, which means 10 divided by 10. So what's 10 divided by 10? Anything divided by itself is always equal to 1. So that leaves me 1x, or just plain old x on the left side of the equal sign. So what about the right side? What goes into this yellow blank here? Well, let's look at the right side of the equation. I've got 12 times 10. So what is 12 times 10? 12 times 10 is 120. So here comes my answer of 120. Now, I don't know why we have these little red symbols down here and this little thing here that says math. What could that be there for? Oh, wait a minute. Here comes something. Oh, look. It's your favorite math teacher, complete with his red mustache. And look, he's even got a cool tattoo that says math. But what's he trying to tell us? He's pointing to, oh, x equals 120 is our solution. Okay, so now we're going to check our work to make sure we did it correctly. So here's our equation: x divided by 10 equals 12. And we ask ourselves, is this true or is it false? We don't know yet. We need to do some more work. So here's our solution: x equals 120. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take that 120 and we're going to substitute it in for x. And so when I do that, what I'm going to get is 120 divided by 10 equals 12. And I ask myself, is this true or false? Well, we don't know yet. We've got to do a little bit of math still. So we're going to simplify here. There's 120 divided by 10. And so what is 120 divided by 10? Well, it's equal to 12. So on the left side, I get 12. And now on the right side, I also have 12 here. So 12 equals 12 is a true statement. So our solution is in fact correct. Let's look at our third example. On this one, the problem says, what is the solution of x divided by negative 15 equals 4? So this is just like the other problems we've been doing. The only difference is I've got a negative 15. That negative is going to make it just a little bit different, but it's the same steps. Just a little bit different calculation in the calculator. So here's our equation: x divided by negative 15 equals 4. And so what's the first thing we always do? We keep in mind what our goal is. So here's our goal. We want x by itself and a blank on the other side because we're going to figure out what goes on the other side. So we can look at our equation, and that x divided by negative 15 means x divided by negative 15. And we want x by itself, so we got to get rid of that negative 15. So we ask ourselves, what's the opposite of divided by negative 15? So the opposite, of course, of divided by negative 15 is multiplied by negative 15. So we're going to multiply both sides of the equation by negative 15. So when I look at that, so here's our negative times negative 15 coming in on both sides of our equal sign. Got to do it on both sides. And now look at the left side. I've got that negative 15 in red over the negative 15 in white. And of course, anything divided by itself is equal to 1. So negative 15 over negative 15 is just equal to 1. And that leaves the x all by itself. On the right side, we're going to go ahead and look at the right side of our equation, and we have 4 times negative 15. And if you do that in a calculator or in your head, first thing is positive 4 times negative. Positive times negative gives us a negative result. So we're going to get a negative number. And then 4 times 15 is 60. So 4 times negative 15 is equal to negative 60. All right. So, oh, look. Here's our favorite. Let's make this in a biology teacher. Okay, let's leave the math guys alone. But our biology teacher here says that x equals negative 60 is our solution. Check our work. Here's our equation. X divided by negative 15 equals 4. And we're asking ourselves, is this true? We don't know yet, so we're going to take our solution, x equals negative 60. And so I'll take that negative 60 and I'll substitute it into the x. And when I do that, on the left side of that equation, I now get negative 60 over or divided by negative 15 is equal to 4. And is this true? Well, we don't quite know yet. We've got to do just a little bit of work still. So on the left side, I'm going to cancel that negative 60 and that negative 15. So the first thing is negative divided by negative is positive, and 60 divided by 60 divided by 15 is equal to 4. So finally I get 4 equals 4. This is a true statement, so our solution must be correct. Here's problem number 4. And it says, what is the solution of x divided by negative 5 equals negative 12? So here's our equation. X divided by negative 5 equals negative 12. And as always, the first thing we want to do is we want to keep our goal in mind. So here it is. X on the left side by itself. On the right side, we're going to figure out what that number goes there. So looking over here, we see that we remember that x over negative 5 really means x divided by negative 5. And what I want is my x all by itself, so I have to get rid of that divided by negative 5. So I ask myself, what is the opposite of divided by negative 5? Oh, what is the opposite of divided by negative 5? It's multiplied by negative 5. So we're going to multiply both sides by negative 5. And so here's our times negative 5 on the left and also on the right. What we do to one side, we have to do to both sides. So looking at the left side of the equal sign, I've got that red negative 5 over that white negative 5. And since that's negative 5 divided by negative 5, anything divided by itself is equal to 1. So those negative 5s cancel out, leaving x all by itself, and here's x all by itself on the left side of the equal sign. So on the right side, I take negative 12 times negative 5, and negative times negative is positive, and 12 times 5 is 60. So as our answer, we get 60. So now I know you're waiting for your favorite math teacher, and so here he is, and he's telling us that x equals 60 is our solution. So now that we have our solution of x equals 60, I need to check to make sure that we did our work correctly. So here's our equation. X divided by negative 5 equals negative 12. And I want to know if this is a true equation. We don't know yet. So we take our solution. Here it is, x equals 60. And then we'll take that 60 and I'm going to substitute it in for x into the equation. So I substitute that 60 in, and this is what we get. 60 divided by negative 5 equals negative 12. And we're really asking ourselves, is this a true statement? We don't know yet. Still have to do a little bit of arithmetic on the left side. So looking at the left side of that equal sign, I've got 60 divided by negative 5. So it's a positive 60 divided by a negative 5. Positive divided by negative is negative, and 60 divided by 5 is equal to 12. So on the left side, that reduces down to negative 12 equals negative 12. Now this is a true statement because negative 12 is equal to negative 12. So we know that our solution is correct. Okay, so now it's time to go ahead and practice all these skills you've learned. Remember, you can always rewind the video to watch the examples again, or you can rewind and pause so you can look at the problems and understand them a little bit better. But your teacher might instruct you to work with your best shoulder partner. If not, you're going to work independently. So if you are going to work with shoulder partners, here's a pair of shoulder partners. And the one on the left is saying, hey, you're my best BSP. Get it? Best shoulder partner. And the other guy's saying, oh, well, okay, he doesn't seem quite so enthused. In either case, whether you work independently or with your best shoulder partner, each student must turn in their own work. Okay, so here we go. You can pause this video so you can copy these problems on the paper. You will have to turn these into your teacher. And all of them we're going to solve for x on each problem. And you need to show your work for credit. So look at those review problems if you want to know how much work you have to show. So problems number 1, 2, 3, 4 are all like the ones we've been doing on this section. We've got, for example, on problem 1, it's x divided by 2, so you multiply by 2 on both sides. Problem number 5, we've got 12 equals 4x. So remember, 4x means 4 times x. You need to divide both sides by 4. Problem number 9, for example, that's x plus 9. So the opposite of plus 9 is minus 9 on both sides. So have a good time. Work with your best shoulder partner, your BSP, and make sure that you put your name on your paper and that you turn it into your teacher. All right, so myself and my 2 friends here have really been tooting the horn because you've done such a great job. I want to thank you for your cooperation. Don't forget to turn your assignment into your teacher. Close this window and go on to the next assignment. Remember, you can always go back to tinyurl.com/easylearning77, which is your complete standards-based Algebra 1 Semester 1 program.